At one point in my life, I came across a line by the pompous, alcoholic, bombastic 16th century physician known as Paracelsus, who said, "One must seek out old wives, gypsies, sorcerers, wandering tribes, old robbers, and such outlaws, and take lessons from them." This was significant enough to necessitate a venture into Europe's still existing magical heritage, and to take steps into learning firsthand that which cannot be learned by books. After all, there is only so long one can drolly pore over books of witchcraft, alchemy, hermeticism, and folk magic, practice bathtub occultism, ponder the voodoo pantheon, and consider means of tampering with the unknown before a huge leap of faith becomes mandatory. After all, the suspicion that there is a present and symmetrical world to that which we do perceive, and can be encroached upon by various systems of magical correspondence, is a life-altering question. A negative answer would allow oneself to retract back to the profane world and indulge in the pleasures our senses do already allow us. However, a positive answer to this question would open a curious door to endless experimentation and development into the world's ether and beyond. And so I set off through the lesser traveled paths of Eastern and Southern Europe, where modernity hasn't swallowed history entirely, in search of the rituals and the people who still employ ancient techniques of healing and affecting fate. Our first stop would be the freezing snow of northeastern Poland. The Polish people of the 17th to 19th century would often employ the use of a koltun, a giant single dreadlock that would extract an illness, particularly a nervous disease. The plate would contain the curse until removed by a careful folk magician. With this in mind, I had my hair cut in preparation to meet Paraskiva Artemiuk in Podlachia on the Belarusian border of Poland. Our first visit to a healer began with significant mystery. As we arrived at Paraskiva's house, we found the door locked and no answer from inside. While we were waiting, a man in a car arrived also to the house and knocked to no avail. When we asked him if this was the house of Paraskiva, he answered, "Do you mean the healer?" Then no, and hastily sped away. After that, we pushed open the door and found her sweetly sleeping on the sofa and received a warm welcome. Paraskiva was a whisperer of great repute. As she started the initial blessing, every word of the ritual was said with vigor and strength, lyrical and poetic.
Adama воздвиг, Лазара воскреси, як tego pana na imię?
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Or James.
Od болезни, od скорби, od печали, od nerwa, nerwicy, od колтуна, od колтуниці, od сквозняка і вікриці. В храмі Божий ясно виявляється. И Христа всем предображай, радуйся, Джимми. Господь с тобою, едино чистая и благословенная Богородица и Матерь Света. Оставляем должником нашим и не веди Джимми во искушение, но избави Джимми от лукавого. от злих духів, битва на 25 болезней від голови, від мозку, від білого тіла, від очей, від плечей, від рук, від ног, від кості.
She blessed me against the horrid Koltun, in between an impressive list of illnesses and things that cause fear, before reaching for a woven ball of golden hair from the corner of the room.
Я колись працювала в Німчах. Військовий був, з-під Сталінграда привезли на роботу невольника. Ой, дуже тоді. Але як його привіз з Азербайджану, німець ten, стулих. Я наготувала обід, бо то в старших людей я працювала.
Домен подимається, сонце зажигається. Ого-го, сонце зажигається. Ходімо толу, повечеряєм зо мною.
Дня да воскреснет Бог и расточаться в рази Его, да бежат от лица Божия, ненавидящие Его. Пасха Господня, Пасха от смерти до жизни, от земли к небеси, Христос Бог наш жив. Радуйся, Джинни, Господь с тобою едино, чистая и благословенная. Просвети и спаси, Джинни, и спаси. Воскрес Иисус от гроба.
After the blonde lock of hair was subject to rigorous prayer and blessing, it was set alight on top of my head in order to drag the negative energy away with it.
Благодатне, чистая Дева, радуйся, и паки, реки, радуйся, Твой Сын воскресе, тридневен от гроба, ликуй меня, и веселися Сионе.
I could hear the hair burning in my ears.
О, як добре.
Paraskiva's happy reaction indicated it had been successful, and I felt a weight drop from my shoulders.
Jeszcze wosek wleje.
Next came the pouring of hot wax into a cup of water on my head. The solidified wax would take the shape of my greatest fear, firstly becoming apparent to Paraskiva, and then becoming less and less clear with each subsequent pour, as the fear dissipated.
Радуйся, Христа всем предображая, радуйся. Дженни, Господь с тобою, едино, чисто, и юшистко. У малого децька, zobaczył, цього. Jaki zwierzak, wilk. Tam w lochach jest wilki.
What is the relationship between orthodoxy and this type of healing?
I guess it's ambiguous because officially Christianity in general, you don't have this acceptance for magical practice. Practically in real life, women are very much connected with the church. They're really religious. The one we were talking about in Orla, I heard she doesn't keep a penny from her practice. She gives everything to the church. So I guess it is an important part of her life, religion. I guess they are treated like, maybe not saints, but someone very much respected for what they do. That's why I say about this ambiguous relationship. On one hand, it's forbidden, more forbidden in a Catholic church than in Orthodox.
Yes.
But then again, they are also friends of priests. They support them financially. They heal with their prayers. So the very formula of healing contains religious rites. So It's connected.
After my first consultation with a healer, some things were apparent. The first was the love and sincerity of the operator. I also realized that she had worked with the elements. Wind in the form of her whispers, fire with the lighting of the hair, and water with the hot wax. The naivety of Poland's shiny frost melted away, only to be aptly replaced by the foggy mountains of Petrocharaza in northern Greece, close to the border.
Skrynia peryna korowa, mnie molodoj. Skrynia
Here, we were to have a meeting with the sweet and absolutely not camera-shy Eleni Kotiati, one of the keepers of the Exemptiasma ritual, or the removal of the evil eye.
Εσύ με παίρνεις έτσι πως είμαι, ναι. Πού να μου μοιχιώ, ονίζεστε, κάμπι μη πάχνεστείτε, ώσπου να πάω και να έρθω, ώσπου να πάω και να έρθω.
The removal of the evil eye has been a subject that has received attention since antiquity, in both the Oriental and Occidental worlds. It is generally associated with the casting of a jealous eye by a peer that would manifest as a malady or misfortune.
Στα όρη και στα βουνά, στα όρη και στα βουνά, στα όρη και στα βουνά. Τώρα, εσύ, εδώ εγώ έχω εδώ κάτι σταυρούς. Αχ, είχα εκεί ένα σταυρό που είναι ο σταυρός που μου ματιάζει, θα τσέχω εδώ πάνω. Έλα, αυτό Πέτρο, εδώ πάνω έχω ένα στρόγγυλο και έχει σταυρούς μέσα. Έλα, εδώ αριστερά, ναι, το έχω που... Ναι, μην πέφτει. Πήρα το μικρό του μπουκελάκι, δεν πειράζει. Δεν πάει. Άντε, εντάξει. Ένα γάντζο έχω και ένα δεν έχω. Τώρα λέω τις προσευχές τώρα εδώ. Είναι ωραία.
Eleni's striking and failure to light the matches, and other observations about oil and candles during the process, turned the room into a drama of her own personal alchemy and relationship with the objects of the ritual.
Κύριε Χριστέ, ελέγξου και σώσου μας. Κύριε Χριστέ, ελέγξου και σώσου μας. Κύριε Χριστέ, ελέγξου και μας. Κύριε Χριστέ, Κύριε Χριστέ, ελέγξου και σώσου. Κύριε Χριστέ, ελέγξου και σώσου. Εσύ μεγάλη και αξιός. Εσύ πατέρα και πατέρα και άναψε τώρα. Άναψε τώρα. Άναψε. Αυτό το έχουμε για τέτοια δουλειά. Αλλά να μην σβήσει. μου τα χέρια μου που έπαθα. Κύριε Ιησούς Χριστέ, Ιησούς. Πιστεύω εσένα με τον Πατέρα μου, τον κράτο μου, και εσένα Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ, Πνεύμα του Θεού του Μαγενή, Πάτε μέσα. Κύριε Ιησού, πιστεύω εσένα με τον Πατέρα μου, τον κράτο μου, σε αυτά τα πάνε και όλα τα μέσα, Κύριε Ιησού. Στα ώρα και στα βουνά, δεν πηγαίνει αβασκανία. Τα παιδιά, καλά, καλά. Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον. Δέσποτε συγχώρησες ένα μία σεμινάρια επίσης ψυχηγής της Ατσινίας ημών. Ένα και είναι το όνομα τόσο, Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον. Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ, Λέησον, Χριστός είναι ο Βασιλεύς. Άντε, καλό μου, καλά να είσαι γερός. Στα βουνά να πηγαίνουν τα δαιμόνια, οι διαβόλοι. Έλα το κεφαλάκι σε πάνω, ξανά εδώ. Το κεφαλάκι σε εδώ είναι γερός. Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον, Κύριε Λέησον. Πάντα, Κάνε και με το, αυτός εδώ. Εδώ να κάνεις μοναχός. Λίγο, κάτσε κάνε, έτσι λίγο. Κάνε σταυρό εδώ, έτσι. Έτσι και έτσι.
Once it was all over, she exclaimed, excitedly, that the room was warm and full of spirits, and rushed to open the windows despite the cold. It had been a very intimate ordeal.
Πάντα καλό να έχεις. Όχι καρδιές καμένες. Μπράβο, Γιάσιμ, γι' αυτό σε πες κάνω καλό. Στα ώρα και στα βουνά. Φαίνεται να είναι πολύ καλό παιδί. Πάρα πολύ καλό παιδάκι μου. Βρίσκω και την αγάπη μου με άλλον παντρεμένη. Τα έρηματα ξένα να ανάψουν να καούν. Να σου πω, εγώ είμαι κουρασμένη, είμαι άρρωστη και δεν μπορώ να τα πω όπως θα έλεγα. Να ξεκουραστώ λίγο και θα σας πω ένα ωραίο, κατάλαβες. Να βγάλω και αυτά που κάηκαν όλα, αυτό που κάηκαν. Στο παλιό σπίτι τούτο που χωρίσαμε και με δάκρυα ποτάμια αυταφήσαμε. Πόσες γλώσσες ξέρεις?
How many languages do you speak?
Μία, μπράβο. Δύο. Κόψε εδώ. Δύο. Κόψε εδώ. Α, μπράβο. Αν τρεμάτε εδώ, να πάει καλά.
After Petro Karaza, we had the privilege to be accepted into the house of one of the Thessalonikian Roma population's most respected fortune tellers. I had to be driven to the house with a cloth over my head to avoid suspicion in the community. The mood was jovial and everyone was full of anticipation as the show started.
Φάτιμε! Μάλε πάρεις. Αντρεμάντε. Αντρελάτε. Εδώ να φανέρεις του Ιησούς Χριστού τα κακά σκορπάς. Να σκορπιστεί το κακό, να πέσει εδώ απάνω. Anche qua in Genova. Обещанку пандженгу κέρδες. Ζώντας λέτε. Πάρε ένα χαρτί από εδώ τώρα. Ένα χαρτί. Σε 3 απάνω μια επιτυχία έχεις. Λαγία να πάρεις. Λεφτά θα πάρεις. Και θα με θυμάσαι. Θα φέρεις και εμένα. Γιατί που είπα το Βασίλη δεν πήρε. Ό,τι βγήκε. Δρόμο εσύ μένετας.
δρόμο θα κάνεις. Η επιτυχία μεγάλη. Γιορτή μέρα γεννήθηκες, την τύχη σου να μην βλαστημάς. Η τύχη σε βοηθάει. Πολύ πλούσιος θα γίνεις. Ένα μελαχρινό φίλο σου θα σε βοηθήσει. Δρόμο σε πέφτει, δρόμο.
Wait.
Αλλά σε μια μεγάλη θέση μπαίνεις, βγαίνεις, σωστή απόφαση δεν μπορείς να πάρεις. Θα την πάρεις και θα χαρείς. Με καστανή κρεβάτι θα κάνεις. Αυτό που μελετάς θα επιτύχεις. Η καρδιά σου είναι ανοιχτή. Προς το παρόν είσαι στεναχωρεμένος. Πέρασες κάτι στεναχώριες. Από αλλουνούς αιτίες. Σε μια μεγάλη πόρτα θα μπεις. Ένα χαρτί θα πάρεις. Νίτσα όνομα, γνωρίζεις? Θα σε πει κάτι λόγια. Πέντε παιδιά θα κάνεις. Πολύ πλούσιος θα γίνεις.
5 children.
Το πρώτο παιδί σου δάσκαλος θα γίνει.
Your first child is going to be a teacher.
Μεγάλη κόσμο θα σπουδάξει.
Δεν το περίμενα το μισάρικανα.
Ό,τι μελετάς θα επιτύχεις. Αλλά έχετε μια στεναχώρια, μια διαφορά να λύσετε, θα τη λύσετε και θα χαρείτε. Έχετε ένα εμπόδιο χρόνια, έχετε απόξω μια γλωσσοφαΐα, ένα κακό μάτι έχετε. Οχτροί έχετε πολύ. Να, οχτροί. Το κακό μάτι σας πιάνει. Η γλωσσοφαΐα θα πήγει. Φετινή χρονιά θα πλουταίνετε, θα λάβετε χαρά. Άντε για χαρά.
Fatima Bebe predicted hard and fast, wild and sensationally. The slickness of her act was somewhat dampened by the fact her reading probably made a lot more sense to an overly superstitious Greek gentleman 50 years ago rather than myself. The Greek experience, though charming and kind, asked more questions than it answered. Eleni Koriati had once again shown us the positive force we had witnessed in Poland, and also brought the concept of psychodrama. And I could see how card readings could be useful in the way that anything that brings everyday introspection into one's life could be beneficial. Our next stop was the city of Miskolc in Hungary to meet Eva Adam, described to us as a popular white witch of the city.
Kérlek benneteket. Rafael, angyalt, Jézus, gyógyítsák meg Jimmynek a lábát. Éjszak. Kérlek benneteket, égják. Tiszta szívből, gyógyítsatok meg Jimmy lábát.
After enjoying the gracious hospitality of our hosts for the entire evening, perhaps a little too much, the matriarch of the family finally arrived late in the evening. And while she had been strong and determined, she made a point clear to us that had been mentioned several times through our journey. Granny whisperers were called thus because they did not start practicing until they had gone through menopause to guarantee the wisdom and clarity of the granny. This was a humbling experience. She reminded me why I took this trip, as she had a similar desire to learn what was capable of the human mind and body. I'll leave any criticism of her techniques to something I heard her husband say. For 15 years we've been married, and I never knew we had a magic room. How did you obtain the water that you used?
Ez egy szent helyről van, ez a szentelt víz, ami gyógyító víz. Mert ez egy szentelt víz, tehát ez egy szent helyről való ez a víz.
And you said earlier the importance of not taking money for your practices. Can you tell me why this is?
Azért, mert én szeretetből segítek az embereknek, nem pénzért. Mert a pénz az ördögtől jön, nem Istentől való.
Will we finish this documentary in this year?
Átkapcsolat. Oké. 100%-ig igen. Egy barát, egy férfi segítségével. Nagyon nagy sikert fog aratni.
After traveling through 3 countries, we felt like we were losing our direction. We felt our last couple of shootings had been subject to well-intentioned carnival acts, rather than the folk wisdom that we were seeking. As we took the train to Serbia, we were desperately in need of something strong, both to satisfy our curiosity and also to lift our morale. As the train got closer to Belgrade, the feeling in the air became alive and active. We were heading towards the traditional Vlachlands, and we were going to have our eyes opened by one of the European communities who still embrace magic in their everyday life.
Witches or werewolf, the third group of people is like people with evil eyes, something like that. Yeah. If they say something is beautiful, then that will die or something like that. So even today, especially in mountain villages, people, they don't let the children play near a street because like if that person will pass by and said, "Wow, your kids is so beautiful," like it's the worst thing there. And so that's why it's Serbian customer when the child is born, you don't say like, "Wow, it's so beautiful, baby." You say opposite. And again, my grandmother, she told me a story that her first child died because of some woman had an evil eye, and she said, "Wow, your child is so beautiful." My grandmother, she was telling that the witches, when they like suck your energy, after the night, after that they spit somewhere, and they spit the blood or something like that. And one morning, my sister, she saw my grandmother. She was doing something with a stick and telling some words, magic protection, something like that. And she said, like, "What is that?" And she was like, it was like some sort of blood, and she was doing like, and my grandmother, she said like, "Goddamn witches, they spit again here in our yard," something like that. But I don't know, like, and it was all the time that kind of story, but I can never say that, like, that is true or not.
After Boris's musings about witches from his childhood, our next contact would be the charming artist, Marina Markovic, who had in her possession a book of spells passed down to her from her grandmother. Of course, we could barely look at the book, let alone film it. So these are the writings that your grandmother, that you transcribed from your grandmother.
Yeah.
Now you've brought it with us.
Yeah, but I can't show you. Like, that was her, like, demanding, like, because she chose me from she had 9 grandchilds. Like, I have 9 cousins. Like, we are all girls, and I'm the youngest, and she chose me. And she said, if I ever show to anybody, like I will lose the power. Like that's the whole thing. Like nobody can see it, and only if I give to somebody the spells, he can say it. But then that's that. So it's kind of, she chose me, and I have to be like.
Is this a lot of weight for you? Do you feel like you have to carry this and pass it on yourself as well?
No. Like my grandma, she was originally Vlacha, but she got married in Serbia, like in Vojvodina. So she was like, I wasn't really sure what she's saying, like sometimes, because she was mixing the languages. But, and also whatever is here, I wrote that. Like she was telling me, and I was writing as a little girl. So yeah, and like half of that are like herbs, mix of herbs, like for healing, some like I don't know, skin stuff or whatever. But there are like half of that is like how to keep the man, how to, I don't know, all that, like love things, like love spells.
Yeah, you told me about a spell from the book about how to keep a man.
Yeah, that was like her specialty, because every Vlacha woman is a witch, like that's the thing. But like they all have their specialities, and the tiding of man was my grandma's specialty. Like if somebody, like for example, man from the village left his wife, and she would come to her and give the nail or hair, like, and then she would make a paper with the spells, or she was just saying, but she told me if I'm doing it, then to write, because I know to write. And then she would put that something of his, and then menstruation blood from that woman, and mix it, and also put honey. And then with the red rope she would tiding like 9 notes, and then he couldn't have erection at all to any other woman except the wife. So he would be forced to come back.
It sounds very similar to voodoo spells as well.
Yeah. It also have like dolls, like voodoo dolls. You would also put inside something that belongs to that man, or also, and then for the needle you need to punch into the voodoo doll. You would have to have like on that body, like a corpse, you would have to stitch like the needle into his something, and to stay there for a night, and then you would pull out, and then that needle was for.
Okay, but there was no dolls used for health purposes as well?
What?
Were there dolls used for health spells as well, or good luck spells?
Well, yeah, like the thing is about Vlacha magic is not black or white. It's for example good for somebody and bad for a guy or something like that.
We were picked up by the energetic Vlach historian and archivist, Alexander, who was also of Vlach descent, to meet the granny whisperer Milica, who he had been working with for many years.
We go now to Eastern Serbia. The name of the city is Majdanpek, but the village who is near from Majdanpek, then we see the granny. It's the Rudna Glava, the name of the village. There we meet the Milica. She looks in the cards, and she can tell you the future. When she was young, she falling in a trance, but now how is she older and older, she don't goes on in a trance, but she can only see the future, and she can tell you some stuff about your family, what it's now, what have a problem now.
We went to Rudna Glava, a tiny village near Majdanpek in eastern Serbia. I wanted to talk to Milica about my deceased grandfather, who I always suspected had looked over me. On the way there, we found a curious fountain structure, which was at the same time a Soviet space monument, a healing water fountain, and the home of a murderous ghost. The significance of water and healing would soon make its way to us. On the way to the hilltop in Rudna Glava, we picked up a family member of Alexander who lived along the path. She explained her son had migraines and also would appreciate to get advice from Milica. This showed us the role of the granny healer as a community nerve center, psychologist, and ersatz doctor.
Pot, nu e problem, că acum am stămâna asta, am mult de lucru, dar stămâna ce după aia...
Noi nu o să putem să ne ducem. Ne dă tine cu brăniștă.
Să facem și eu cu Ljuboja. Unde?
Bravo.
Să facem și eu cu Ljuboja.
Fa nešto mora, că acum am gicao la nešto. Deci mi-a dat ăsta gișa nostru, doctor.
Rodine că snimanja.
Pa da, ajde mă aflu eu cu Ljuboja stară, știi? Că mă duc, eu după asta mă duc în Maidan și mă duc în Giniș cu Ljuboja și mă întorc, mă duc în Beograd, dimineața. Și o să-l întreb. Că nemam vremena, știi și mă duc numai să-i văd la 2 minute și gata.
E što se snalazim, eu da ubacim. Aha, rizikuješ.
Da ga ja uparkiram.
Ajde. We must.
The road ended, and we had to hike the rest of the hill, only to wait hours for Milica to finish milking her cows.
Ei bine de Solis. În ce lună ai făcut Ilda, în ce lună... Ia asta ceva, povezane sunt, gea na paturile așa el. Nici n-are gând la așa el. Seamă în provoz. Deci e câteodată spune, ni mărtav, ni jip. Aia e să-i lucru și gata. El o îmbracă, n-are veze, dacă o spala. Dar od klanja, că deși are ceva. Ja mogu to da pravim. Nu-mi jasno de unde asta. Că el trăiește, vezi că și-a făcut o familie. Dar nu mogu eu. Cum se știu că-l cheamă? Fata mea masca și e profec. Cine se obraća? Ako ga operja, neka ga nosi, da se otklanja to od njega sve. Hvala. Ne kažete hvala.
As we traveled the long, hard route by car, bus, and train to the south of Bulgaria, our hearts were filled with enthusiasm, as we had seen healers now in the center of their communities and their influence therein. Our first stop was in Dobrich, where we were led by our guide and water specialist, Denica.
This part of the mountain, there's a very old traditions as Christianity. So all these rituals were taken from the Christianity because in this mountain there's one pope or like one priest for a couple of villages, and people were, this type of Christianity was kind of connected with the everyday rituals. They had a lot of healing fountains because in this mountain there's a lot of water, a lot of fresh spring water and hot water. There are a lot of hot springs. So these people believe that the water is the connection between the material and immaterial world. But specifically for this area, this is the myth of Orpheus and Dionysus. People there live with the mythology, and it's part of their rituals.
We visited the house of the recently deceased Grandma Vasilitsa, a much-loved character of the area. She claimed the ghosts of 3 saints told her to dig in her backyard where she would find 3 fountains. They were right.
Свети Василий Велики, свети Иван Златоуст, свети Григорий Богослов.
Така.
Затова са 3 и в 1:30 се прави поливката, значи мие се с 3 чашки.
В 1:30?
Да. В 1:30 слагаш 3 чашки.
All these saints were taken of the Christianity from the tradition cults over there.
Значи, когато се попали водичката, отдолу се извади една плоча с надпис и то е имало 3 извърчета. От 3 места е извирало. И зато и на книжките е описано, но нямам книжки. Трябва да ти да дам.
Loaded up with bottles of holy water, our next site in the blustering Bulgarian sun would be the Grandma Baba Vaska.
Няма.
Виждам колко е готино.
Тя ме е правила, зимата съм идвала в къщи. Вятъра не може да се запали огън.
Този вятър.
Една точка.
Да.
И почва. Дойдем ли?
Чакай тя да си отида.
Това трябва да минем през...
Да минем даже и да се
She's telling if you have some accident with a car, you had fear, So maybe it's the thing you told me about, no? От кое?
Много страх има в него. Гледай хубаво.
Да. Къде го виждаш? Покажи.
Ето го е, това е главата на раменето, четвъртото.
Да.
Ти по-отдалеко, не дейте се...
Виждам, аз виждам.
По-далеко се вижда.
Какво значи? Той се е оплашал от колата при него, човек има ли, няма ли?
Да.
Излиза и човек излиза, да.
Който го спасил там.
Супер яко.
Ако искате, от вас не
I think it comes from the old mythology that there are a lot of gods of the river. For example, people there believe that Orpheus lived there, and his father was the god of the river. I think he was called Strymon. And people live with these stories, and not far away is the cave where Orpheus went in the underworld to take this to take his Eurydice.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a river leading to this underworld, and 3 or 4 people went there to explore it and never came back. So it's called the Devil's Throat, and so on.
The thought had been burdening me, that I still had this wretched curse attached to my leather vest that Milica had exorcised. I thought, where better place to discard it than in the mouth of the underworld? Baba Vaska had given me the melted lead bullet that contained my fear, with the instructions to sleep on it for 3 nights and then discard it in water. I found another river in southern Bulgaria to dispose it, so as to not store all my demons in one place.
Everything is great, and this is a great way to spend the time before we go to Italy, because it's really nice things.
Feeling lighter in spirit and ready for anything, as the weather changed to an electric Italian autumn, we headed to our final destination to investigate Tarantism in its hometown of Lecce in Puglia.
Si pensa che ci sia un agente esterno, in questo caso la taranta, questo insetto strisciante, che pizzicando le persone, soprattutto le donne, inoculasse un veleno. Questo veleno portava a degli spasmi muscolari, a un'apatia, inappetenza, sudorazioni molto profonde, che potevano essere curate solo e soltanto con l'intervento di 2 tipi di terapia. Una terapia musicale, l'altra terapia era una terapia cromatica, fatta di colori. La tarantata sceglieva un colore, giallo, verde, rosso, eccetera. A seconda di questa scelta il ballo poteva essere di carattere lascivo, di carattere erotico, di carattere triste, di carattere libertino, eccetera. Una volta stabilite queste 2 cose si dava inizio alla vera e propria terapia. E bisogna immaginare che queste ritualità funzionavano ed erano presenti in una società agricole pastorali in cui la donna è l'ultimo anello della catena sociale, politica e culturale anche, perché non potevano prendere decisioni di potere, in economia, erano soggette a qualsiasi situazione all'uomo e soprattutto erano soggette anche dal punto di vista sessuale. Cioè, le donne in società agricole pastorali sono considerate la stregua di merce che viene scambiata per contrarre dei matrimoni vantaggiosi per la tribù o per il clan di appartenenza. E allora uno dei motivi per cui sono le donne è perché le donne tentano attraverso la ritualità del tarantismo di sovvertire questo ordine precostituito e attirare su di sé l'attenzione della comunità, ma hanno su di loro molti aspetti importanti della società agricola pastorale, cioè l'educazione, la sessualità, la riproduzione della comunità stessa, eccetera. Per cui loro si inventano una ritualità tale che almeno per 2 o 3 volte all'anno, per 2 o 3 giorni all'anno, potesse attirare su di loro l'attenzione e scatenare un disordine musicale attraverso il quale la comunità stessa riconosce, perché è presente durante il ballo, riconosce questa necessità e questi disagi e attraverso la musica la riconduce in una quotidianità.
Logicamente la gente non lavora più nei campi, non lavorando più nei campi non ha questo contatto con la terra e poi in qualche maniera non pensa più come chi lavora ogni giorno, come chi fa dei gesti che ha fatto per secoli, che hanno fatto i propri genitori, che hanno fatto i genitori dei genitori. E la taranta già non ti punge perché tu non vai con le mani a prendere le cose, ma lo fa tutto meccanicamente, fa tutto il trattore, tutti questi mezzi meccanici. Oggi che cosa è rimasto di questo? Il fatto che le persone credono veramente nel ballo, che il ballo possa cacciare via tutti i veleni che uno prende quotidianamente. Questo è vero, ma non solo nel Salento. Il ballo svolge questa funzione in tutto il mondo. Tarantismo is a religion phenomenon. If you put away the god anthropomorph like Taranta, if you put away the Servo San Paolo, the Servo is una figura che sta fra il male e il bene. Fra il male e il bene c'è San Paolo e you ask to him to save e lui intercede. Sometimes is good, sometimes is not good. For this è un rapporto dove si richiede prima di tutto del believe, cioè you must believe this. If you don't believe, non c'è tarantismo, there is not tarantismo. If you don't believe, cade. fenomeno religioso, is religion a phenomenon. Per questo. If you believe only in the music therapy, you are another thing. You stay in another field. It is not religion phenomenon.
We had heard a lot about Tarantism by male scholars and musicians by now. However, as this type of therapy was expressly performed by women, something crucial was missing. We had been told that the service was still active in this part of the magical South. I felt that the only way we were going to get close to the spiritual and powerful notion of this tradition was to find a female's point of view.
So, Peppina, could you please share an experience of the Taranta dance from when you were younger?
Allora, la vera esperienza della tarantata erano quelle che la taranta, c'erano delle tarante che le mordevano. Allora, dopo le mordevano, gli venivano questi attacchi e incominciavano a una specie di ballo. Se sentivano un rumore allegro, una musica allegra, allora loro incominciavano a lavorare. A terra, si rotolavano a terra, insomma. Pure se dove lavoravo io c'erano dei carrelli che trasportavano il tabacco e passavano sopra certi tubi che facevano rumore, no? Facevano tutun, e questi gli venivano questi attacchi. Allora si dice che per poterle fare stare bene dovevano andare a Santo Paolo, dove c'è le tarifide dei Tarante, e gli dovevano fare, c'è un pozzo, gli dovevano fare bere quell'acqua. Allora una volta bevuta quell'acqua si calmavano, però dovevano stare attenti di non stare dove c'era la musica allegra, non potevano sentire la musica allegra, se sentivano pure che la suonavano da qualche parte loro non ci stavano più, incominciavano a fare. E poi passavano dentro le sedie, passavano così, quando, pure che erano grosse, già passavano giù da quelle sedie. Erano queste le vere tarantate.
Subino tutte nugu una mattinata, cullo murtaro e cullo pisaturo, subino tutte nugu e bella una mattinata.
As the sun set on our last day in Puglia, we had to reflect that even if we were not to witness the sensational act of Tarantism, we are incredibly grateful for all the love and commitment given to us, and we had been truly blessed throughout this entire trip.
Gloria al Padre, al Figlio e allo Spirito Santo. Sia lodato e ringraziato ogni momento.
The Catholic Church had been a lot stricter on occult practices than the Orthodox Church had been.
Sia lodato e ringraziato ogni momento. Gloria al Padre, al Figlio e allo Spirito Santo.
We thought we had missed out on seeing an act of Tarantism until later on that last night, when a tall, skinny man invited us to church. We approach this journey not with a critical eye, but with open minds, and the knowledge that every experience can provide the grounds for wisdom. We were rewarded with the love and trust of people who live outside of the modern and in fact positively defy it. Just as we started with the Paracelsus quote, it seems apt to quote him in the end. The art of medicine has its roots in the heart.